Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar on achieving your 2024 financial goals. I'm excited to be back doing webinars here in the new year. Took a little bit of a break there during the holidays, but again, very excited to be back speaking to all of you about achieving some of our 2024 financial goals. Before we dive into today's presentation, I did want to take care of a few housekeeping items. First and foremost, I want to introduce myself, Vincent Delgado, Education Outreach Manager with Cesslock Federal Credit Union. There is my contact info on the slide. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to send me an email at the address listed on the slide, and I'll make sure I help answer your questions. Some good news, we are recording today's presentation. If you have to jump off early, if you have to revisit the presentation, if you want to share today's presentation, you will receive a recording of it within the next day, probably later today, but potentially tomorrow morning. You'll get a link to view the recording. So feel free to take a look back at that if you missed anything, or if you do have to jump off early. And again, share with folks as well too if this information is compelling to you and others. Very quickly, for those of you that maybe aren't familiar with Cesslock, we are the largest locally owned financial institution here in San Luis Obispo. We've been around for a little over 80 years. Our members are local, the money stays local, and we're very happy to serve the Central Coast. We offer these monthly financial education webinars. So please continue to attend, share with friends and family and neighbors. Please provide any feedback on topics you'd like to hear about here in the coming year in the chat box or during Q&A. Again, feel free to share some topics that you'd like to hear about. Also, if you work at a company or for a nonprofit here in the Central Coast, we can offer these presentations as part of your benefits package. So feel free to, again, send me an email or connect with me offline. We'd love to be able to offer these types of presentations to our local employees here in the Central Coast that maybe we're unable to reach through this webinar platform. So now that we've taken care of some of our housekeeping items, again, I mentioned Q&A, but feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation. We're going to cover a lot of information today. So again, stop me, ask questions. And I'll make sure I do the best I can at getting to all of your questions throughout the webinar. There is a Q&A box somewhere on your screen. For me on my device, it's at the top, maybe somewhere different for you. But again, feel free to utilize that throughout the presentation to ask questions. And we'll have time at the end for sure to do a little Q&A. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and dive into our presentation today, Achieving Your 2024 Financial Goals. As we kind of step into this new year, granted we're about 2 weeks into it, but still sometimes feels fresh and all of our resolutions are still intact, maybe, hopefully. It's the perfect time to reassess some of our financial habits and make some positive changes. And this is true for just about anyone, whether you're an expert at managing your finances or are a novice looking to kind of shore up the basics as part of your 2024 resolutions. There's definitely something for everyone as it relates to finances and goals in this new year. Let's face it, the last few years have been tough for many people's finances. We all know that the inflation is incredibly high, the high interest rates, whether that's on credit cards or homes. It's been difficult at times for some people. So, with all those things considered, it's really a good time for us to take a good hard look at our finances and find out where we can maybe shore up any loose ends here in the new year. There's a lot of easy things that we can do. There's a lot of complicated things that we can do as well too to help improve our financial well-being. Whether you're looking to save money, whether you're looking to invest wisely, or just overall be generally more financially responsible in 2024. Hopefully this presentation's here to help get you started and consider making some of these changes here in the new year. So I actually want to share a poll here to get some people's feedback about maybe what plans you're thinking to accomplish here in the new year. Actually, give me 1 second. I'm gonna try to pull up this poll and see if it works. All righty. You should have a poll on your screen. What are some of your 2024 financial goals? Feel free to vote. Maybe share some things you're hoping to accomplish. You got a few different answers here: decreasing debt, invest more, or start to invest money, save, budgeting, others. Feel free to, we've got some votes coming in here. There we go. I'll leave it open for a few more seconds here. I just want to get a majority of the people to participate. Okay. Last call. Leave about 5 more seconds for folks that want to vote. There we go. All righty. I'm going to go ahead and end this poll here. So I'm sharing these results, and you can probably see on the screen, what some of these results are, or maybe you can't see on the screen. For some reason, it's telling me that you can't see it, or maybe you can. But I'll read them off. 57% of you talked about wanting to decrease debt. That's a big one. 43% of you talked about investing more or starting to invest money. 43% also mentioned save, whether that's for a house, an emergency fund, etc., just overall kind of save. 57% talked about budgeting, and then 29% mentioned other. And that can include a variety of different things. The great thing is we're going to discuss all of these topics here today, and then a few more in addition. So there's definitely going to be something that speaks to all of you throughout this webinar, but I at least just wanted to get a general idea. Thank you, Steve. I just wanted to get a general idea of kind of, what people are looking for, and to let you guys all know you're not alone. Everyone's kind of in the same state of wanting to improve certain things. So I figured that was good to share. All righty. Before we dive into some of these topics, I think it's worthwhile to discuss this kind of concept of goals a little further. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I think this is a very valuable part of the presentation. Any goal that doesn't have a clear objective is more likely to fail. I think we all know that. And financial goals are no different. That's why it's important for us to be incredibly clear about what we want to achieve, why you want to achieve it, and when you want to achieve it by. The 2023 Financial Wellbeing Index showed that creating a definite picture of what you want to accomplish can help boost your chances of fulfilling it. Research also found that those who create a financial plan tend to do better with their money. Unfortunately, just 17% of people have a strategy in place to reach their long-term money targets. So it's very valuable, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this slide, that creating a plan with objectives can help ensure you're one of those who meets your goals. One thing to remember, though, is that once you have clear objectives, ensure you put monetary values on it, providing a clear understanding of how close you are to achieving it. And that gets us to a lot of people's favorite topics, SMART goals. I'm not going to spend a ton of time explaining what SMART means. You can see it here on the screen. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Instead of saying, I want to save money for my dream trip to Europe, be specific. I want to save $200 per month, 1 year in my high-yield savings account. Measurable. You could use a bucketing system, finding a way to track your progress. That way you can easily see how close you are to reaching your goal and resist the temptation to spend your savings elsewhere. Achievable. Your goal should be challenging but doable. Look at your budget and make sure you can afford to save $200 a month. Challenging yourself without overstretching your finances. Your goals should be ambitious but not impossible. Relevant. Consider your age and the current financial stage that you're in. If you just bought a house, saving $200 monthly may be a stretch for you. A more realistic plan could be to save $50 a month over the course of 3 or 4 years in order to accomplish that goal. Time bound, set a deadline, keep yourself accountable. Having a timeline can help you stay focused. It can help you, maybe reevaluate if you potentially missed your mark. And lastly, the beauty of SMART goals is they force you to be concrete, focused, and accountable. So when we're talking about setting these goals, whether it's decreasing debt or investing more money or saving money, make sure that you use this structure when creating your SMART goals or when creating your financial goals. And it'll help make this process a little bit easier and again, hold yourself accountable. So let's dive into this first topic right here. Again, a majority of people talked about this being a goal for them in 2024, eliminating debt. It's something we all, I think, can understand and sympathize with. And thankfully, there's some good things that we can do as it relates to eliminating debt. So if you have outstanding high interest debt, such as credit card balances, we want to focus on paying that down aggressively here in the new year. High interest debt can quickly accumulate and become a huge financial burden. And right now, with again the way credit card rates are and with the costs of everything, I'm sure there's many more people that are under some high interest credit card debt than there were just a few years ago. So you're not alone. Generally, unsecured debt, which is the debt that's not backed by an asset like a home or a car, has higher interest rates. Things like mortgages, auto loans, maybe secured credit cards, those aren't so bad with high interest rates, and those aren't going to cost you as much. It's really that credit cards, those personal loans that are going to, get you in that what feels like quicksand and cycle of paying down debt. For personal loans, there's average interest rates between like 10% and 29%. Credit cards often have interest rates between 15% and 30%. Again, that's very, very high. And sometimes when you're struggling, it feels impossible to pay down that principal amount. It seems like all you're paying is interest. I think we kind of know how high interest debt can affect your finances. The higher the interest rate, the more expensive your debt is going to be over time, longer it's going to take to pay you down. High interest debts can threaten your credit health, and significant high interest debt can divert funds away from other goals like investing, home ownership, or family planning. So let's talk about a few ways in which we can decrease that debt. One of which I'm sure you're already doing, but we need to make sure we emphasize it. But there's two others that I think can have a big impact. First and foremost, your credit card minimums. Some folks out there are only paying credit card minimums. Let's try to pay more than that. Making the only minimum payment on your credit card balance is going to make some progress towards reducing your overall debt, but this approach is going to cost you more interest in the long run. Your account balance may remain steady or even increase due to compound interest. So aim to pay more than your credit card's minimum each month to make a larger impact on what you owe. Some folks' credit card minimums are $200. Aim to pay $250, $300. Free up some extra money for the time being, whether that's canceling a gym membership, whether that's canceling subscriptions, whether that's doing better with cooking meals at home. Do what you can to tighten the budget up a little bit, which we're going to discuss, and allocate those extra funds to paying more than the minimum payment. Many folks out there also just assume that paying the minimum is okay, and I'm here to tell you, especially if you have a larger balance, it's not. Pay more than that minimum payment. Next, let's talk about the avalanche repayment method. This one's huge. This method really allows you to take a look at targeting your high interest debt. If you're an individual in the audience who has a couple of high interest credit card debt balances, maybe you have 2 or 3, rank your debts in order of interest rate. Ignore the balance, solely focus on rating them by interest rate. Start focusing your extra funds after you've paid the minimums to the highest interest rate card. This will slowly and steadily help you save money in the long run by reducing the amount of interest you pay over time. So again, list all your credit cards by the highest interest rate and tackle the highest interest rate first. Pay your minimums, any excess money, throw it all towards that highest interest rate card. Once that's gotten to a manageable level or it's completely gone, then you move on to the next balance. Again, the highest interest rate is what's going to cost us the most money. So we want to eliminate that balance in that card as quick as we possibly can. Lastly, and this is a big one, there's not a lot of folks that are aware of maybe the balance transfer method or some debt consolidation, but it can be incredibly valuable for many folks out there. If you have several sources of high interest debt consolidation may help you get a better handle on what you owe. This process will allow you to combine several existing debts into a single brand new loan, ideally with a lower interest rate and more favorable repayment terms. This is only to be done if you can find, the key word there is favorable terms. This is only to be done if you can find a lower interest rate. But using the example, if you have 2 or 3 credit cards with interest rates that are north of 25%, combining them and getting yourself a loan with a lower interest rate can save you money over the long run. So potentially considering debt consolidation can have a positive impact on how much your debt is going to cost you over time. Another great example is a balance transfer card. Some folks have, a high interest credit card with a large balance of 20% or 25%. And it feels as if you're making zero progress because that interest is so high and all you're paying is the minimum and you're making zero progress towards paying down that principal amount. There are a plethora of great balance transfer cards to eliminate your high interest. These balance transfer cards will give you an introductory rate of 0% for potentially up to 2 years. A lot of times it's in between like 15 and 18 months, so a year and a half maybe, of 0% interest. So you're solely paying down the principal amount for almost 2 years. This is a great option for folks that are struggling to get ahead with that high interest debt. So a quick Google search, Cesslock has a great balance transfer card, but a quick Google search of best balance transfer cards. There's a publication called NerdWallet, and it'll list 4 or 5 different balance transfer cards that would work for you. You transfer your balance from that credit card over to another one with 0% interest, and you aggressively pay that down. Like with any credit card though, if you don't pay that balance down after the 0% introductory rate, you will then begin to start accumulate interest. So explore those options a little bit, see which one works best for you. Oftentimes a balance transfer can have a huge impact, especially if you're dealing with high interest credit card debt. If you're someone in the audience that has debt that's via the form of a mortgage or an auto payment, this may not speak to you. This really solely is for the folks that are dealing with high interest credit card debt or high interest loan payments. These are going to be the ones that these are going to be the options you're going to want to explore. Again, because that credit card debt can significantly impact your overall finances. As you work to better manage and repay your high interest debt, remember that consistency is key. Continuing to pay more than the minimum on time every single time, and continuing to take advantage of 0% interest rates via a balance transfer card is going to allow you to get ahead with your debt. Any questions as it relates to eliminating debt, those balance transfer cards, anything like that? Because again, I know that there was quite a few people in the audience that wanted to focus on decreasing their debt. So any questions as it relates to that right now? Okay, again, feel free to ask away if you remember something as we continue to move on. We're going to shift gears here to investing. There was a handful of people in the audience that also wanted to figure out or have a goal for investing, whether that's starting to invest or increasing the amount of money that they invest in this new year. For some, maybe you're just starting your investment journey. For others, maybe you want to diversify your current investments and add more money to your investment vehicles. Regardless, investing is a great way to build wealth for yourself and make your money work for you. Holding cash in a bank savings account is a safe strategy, but it doesn't really allow your money to grow in value over time. When you invest your money in terms of an IRA or a 401k, you really get the benefit of compounding interest and long-term growth. And that's really what we want to focus on over the next few slides. I want to preface with, I am not a financial advisor, and because of that, I'm not going to dive into specific investment strategies. I recommend you reach out to your financial advisor, or at the end, I'll share our wealth management, Chris, his contact information. But it's really just, the investment vehicles that are available to you and how to either get started or increase your contributions. So let's say you're someone in the audience that just wants to get started on how to invest. There are a couple different vehicles that are very easy for you to do. Number one is a 401k. This can be one of the simplest ways to get started in investing and comes with some major incentives that could benefit you now and in the future. Most employers, if not all employers, offer a 401k, and they even offer a match as well too, which incentivizes you to save for retirement. The contributions they come out of your paycheck, and it's deposited straight into your 401k, and it's really a great savings tool, because again, it's automatic and it provides a level of consistency. In a traditional 401k, the contributions are made prior to being taxed and grow tax-free until retirement age. Some employers offer a Roth 401k, which allow your contributions to be made after taxes. If you select this option, you won't pay taxes on withdrawals during retirement. But a 401k is a great option. I was having a conversation the other day with one of my neighbors, and his son just got a job and was asking questions about getting the 401k started and where he should begin and what are the contributions he should start making. And that's fantastic. I think the son's 22 years old, and again, just got his first job and is already looking at opening up a 401k through his employer and making those contributions happen. So that's a really great way to get started into investing and planning for retirement. Another great avenue to really begin your investing journey is an IRA, an individual retirement account, which is a long-term savings account that individuals with earned income can use to save for the future. And similar to a 401k, you can also get some tax advantages as well too. An IRA is designed for maybe folks that are self-employed or do not have access to a workplace 401k. You can open up an IRA through financial institutions like Ceslock or whoever your primary financial institution is. And your account balance grows depending on how much you invest and how you decide to invest. There are several types of IRAs. There's the traditional IRA and the Roth IRA. Very similar to what I described about the 401k. There are certain tax advantages that come with a traditional and a Roth. It really is kind of what situation works best for you. Are you younger in your career and you plan to make more money by the time retirement age comes? Then a Roth might be best for you. But definitely some things to consider as it relates to a Roth or a traditional IRA. So these are really the two basics as it relates to getting started in investing. 401k, if you have a job that's offering this, please continue to make contributions or start making contributions. If you maybe are self-employed or you earn income another way, but you don't have a 401k, consider opening up an IRA with your financial institution and begin making contributions that way. Just like a 401k, you can automatically transfer them into your individual retirement account, which makes for ease of investment. Maybe you already have a 401k, but you feel you need to save more. Open up an IRA and add that extra level of investment security. A lot of us received, maybe cash over the holidays from gifts, holiday bonuses, you name it. Use that extra money to help accomplish your retirement goals. Some of you out there may have already have an IRA or already have a 401k, and you're looking to increase your contributions, but you're worried about, maybe the effect it's going to have on your paycheck. You want to increase from 2% to 4%, but you're worried that that 2% is going to have a big difference on the money that hits your checking account when you get that direct deposit, which is fine. It's a fair concern, especially, again, as I mentioned, considering inflation nowadays. But let's take a little bit of a look at some of the varying levels of contributions over time and the long-term benefits that increasing your contributions can have. So the people that are listed here below, Jason, Jill, Claudia, and Carlos. And again, this is purely a simulation. All of these folks are 25 years old. They earn $50,000 a year. They get paid twice a month, or bi-weekly, I should say. Let's just assume that they get a 4% raise every year. They have a match up to 5%. And lastly, we'll just assume that when they contribute to their 401k, they get an 8% return, which is pretty fair, all things considered. I understand not everyone that's attending the webinar is 25 years old. I understand that not everyone attending the webinar makes $50,000 a year. Maybe you make less, maybe you make more. But the goal of viewing this slide or viewing this chart right here is to get you to see the differences in contribution amounts per paycheck and what it can have come retirement age. There's Jason, you can see here, who's doing 1%. Per paycheck, that's $13. And you can see his values and how they grow over time. There's Jill with 5%, Claudia with 10, Carlos with 15. 15 is a pretty high chunk of a contribution. I don't know too many people that are contributing 15% of their paycheck to their 401k, but you never know. The whole premise here is look at the gap between 1% and 5%. You can see the difference. It's about a $50 difference in paycheck. But look at the change in value, especially as you get into age 55 and 65. And the goal of viewing this chart is to get you to realize that even a 1 or 2% difference in contributions can make a huge impact come retirement age at 65. I'm sure when you take a look at your budget, you can find $20 to $30 to $40 to $50 to cut back on, whatever that might be for you. I can't sit here and tell you not to drink your Starbucks every day, because if that's what you look forward to, then fine. Maybe find something else that you can potentially cut back on to make contributions through your 401k. Because by the time you get to 45, 55, and 65, you're going to be thanking yourself for making those sacrifices. Again, the extreme end, Carlos, 15%, that's a lot, especially, depending on the salary that you're making. But I think that there's value in seeing this chart and understanding the difference that is made when you up your contributions by a couple percentage points. So hopefully that's the message that, that was delivered, at least as it relates to contributing more. Maybe start at 1%. If you're contributing, 4% right now, just bump it up to 5 and get used to what that impact is going to have on your paycheck for the next 5 or 6 months. The beauty of it, at least with my employer, I can kind of change my contribution level as much as I want. If this month I want to add, a percentage, I can, and next month I can decrease it. And most often than not, you're in a similar situation. So take advantage of that. Add a percentage or two over the course of the next few months and see what difference that makes. And if you're able to absorb it well, then great. Continue on with that, because again, by the time you get to a certain age, you're gonna greatly appreciate the contributions that you made over time. One of the last things I want to touch on as it relates to investing here, many folks, maybe you're already investing, you feel you're comfortable with the amount that you're contributing, but you feel like you could be doing more. And I hear this a lot when I'm talking with members, and they expressed interest in getting help from a financial advisor. there's a few reasons why getting help from a financial advisor can be a good thing. First and foremost, they help create a financial strategy for you. Great advisors will focus on developing a strategy that can cover many different aspects, including your investments, potential insurance, estate planning, things of that nature. A financial advisor will have a strategy based on your needs. A good financial advisor should listen to what you want to accomplish. My needs are going to be totally different than someone else that's on this call as it relates to retirement. So a good financial advisor will sit there and listen to what you want to accomplish, and tailor your investment strategy to your needs. They'll kind of act as a project manager for you. They'll free you from financial work. They can give you the freedom not to worry about your investments and instead focus on what you love doing and focus on your work. And lastly, they'll help you plan for the unexpected. A good advisor can help you, weather difficult economies, difficult markets, and get you through that long journey of life, so that when retirement age comes, you have the finances ready to live that retirement life that you want. One fact that I wanted to share, and this is a 2022 study from Vanguard. Financial advisors can help increase your returns by 3% per year. So that's, over the course of 20 or 30 years, that's a large amount of money. So consider reaching out to a financial advisor. If you want them to take control of your 401k, if you want them to, let's say you're inheriting a sum of money and you don't necessarily know what to do with it, speak to a financial advisor. They will help you utilize that money and make it work for you instead of kind of sitting in a savings account not doing much. We have a great financial advisor here. He handles all of our wealth and wealth management. His name is Chris Datu. Some of you have already spoken with him, but his contact info is there. I highly recommend that you reach out to him or any other financial advisor, regardless of who it is. It's a sound financial decision to speak with a financial advisor who is an expert in this realm. So reach out to your primary financial institution and get their help with your financial planning. Any questions as it relates to investments, types of investment vehicles, increasing your contributions, how to increase your contribution, things like that? Okay. We've got a few more things to get through here. So let's keep it moving. We're going to talk about budgeting. Many folks on the webinar highlighted the need to focus on budgeting here in the new year. Creating and or refining your budget is key to making better money decisions throughout the year. It's important to budget in the right way. Many people just assume that monitoring your mobile banking is enough to be considered budgeting, but that's not true. Just because every 4 or 5 days you pull up your mobile banking app and see what you spent your money on doesn't mean that you're budgeting. Budgeting includes knowing exactly where your money is going month to month. Whether you use a budgeting app, whether you use an Excel spreadsheet, whether you're old-fashioned paper and pen, take the time now at the start of the year to track your income and spending and learn how much money is going into different categories. Once you've created this budget, let's start identifying the actions you can take to help cut costs, allowing you to pay down debt, which we talked about, or freeing up more money to invest into your investment vehicles. I myself use an Excel spreadsheet. I have a set income that I receive month to month. My wife has a set income that she receives month to month. We enter that into our Excel spreadsheet in one column, and on the other side, or on the other column, we input all of our expenses, which we have a lot. We have a house payment to make. We have a vehicle payment that we need to make. We have a daughter who goes to daycare. We have our PG&E, our water, our internet. We input all of those expenses, and then we start to balance out what we spend a month on groceries, what our average PG&E bill is. It's a little higher now in the winter versus the summer because we're running the heater a little more, especially last week. It felt so cold for those of us on the Central Coast. Compared to the rest of the country, it's not, but for us, for me, California kid, it was pretty cold last week. But you can average that out over the course of the year, whether that's $50 a month, $80 a month, but you can average out some of those variable expenses. And the biggest thing is that discretionary spending. My wife and I are incredibly guilty of spending money on takeout. We love eating takeout. We have delicious food here in the Central Coast, and we're constantly finding ourselves eating takeout. And that's something that her and I are constantly working on refining and decreasing how much we spend. Taking a look at our budgeting really allows us to be on top of that. We have medical expenses that come up. We have a little one who's constantly sick, that's constantly going to the pediatrician's office and the doctor's office. So we have those expenses as well too. And when you factor that into your budget, it really gives you a better idea as to where your money's going. And the only reason I say that is it gives you a peace of mind and some comfort when you begin to see where your money's going. And when you see it from a bird's eye view, you can begin to make those necessary changes. And you can begin to look at whoever you share your finances with and say, hey, we need to start cutting back on how much we spend eating out. We need to figure out ways to decrease our energy bill. We need to cut down on these TV subscriptions. And that's a good transition into this next slide. So you've created your budget, now what? Spend less on your must-haves. To save on food, eat out less. I need to put that on a Post-it note and put it on our fridge or on our pantry, because again, we're so guilty of it. You need to try meal prepping, which you can buy food in bulk for maybe a lower cost, like at Costco, to save on electricity, which we all know is expensive here on the Central Coast. Try to use your appliances during off-peak hours. Turn off lights when leaving a room. This can really help cut down your overall electricity bill. Whether it's water, I know, water, especially on the Central Coast, the costs are astronomical. Take quicker showers, do dishes or run the dishwasher only a couple times a week and only when it's a full load. And the same with laundry. These things can help over time have a huge impact on your bottom line. And it allows you, once you start averaging out or paying attention more what you're paying, it allows you to see ways in which you can cut back. Spend less on your nice to haves. Look at that discretionary expenses and create a budget for those items. These are purchases that are desirable but unnecessary. Streaming TV subscriptions, gifts, vacations, happy hours, things like that. A lot of us are guilty with those discretionary expenses, and those are easy cutbacks we can make. If you're someone that likes to go out and have dinner and drinks 3 or 4 times a week, maybe cut it down to 2 or 3 times a week. That can save a lot of money. Also avoid the temptation of impulse shopping. Make yourself a buy list. Put items that you want, whether it's on Amazon or whatnot, put it in your cart and think about it for a few days or a week and really decide if it's something you really want to spend your money on. If it fits within your budget, go ahead and buy it, but don't impulse shop and sacrifice that extra payment to your credit card or sacrifice other savings goals just because you feel like you needed, a pair of shoes or new gym equipment or whatever it might be. Use categories to keep your priorities straight. Before making a purchase, ask yourself, do you need it? Do you love it? Do you like it? Do you want it? Really begin to ask yourself some of these questions and make sure what you're buying is something that you're going to continue to use and it's going to bring you lasting joy. Because if not, there's no point in doing it. So budgeting is a pretty simple thing. It boils down to identifying what money you have coming in and where your money's going when it's coming out, and determining what those wants versus needs are. A lot of us can also cut down. Again, the biggest thing that, at least for my family, it's the food. We buy a lot of money worth of groceries. We have no reason to be eating out and wasting food. That's our biggest focus right now, is taking advantage of the food that we have at home and limiting how much we eat for takeout and limiting how much I go and run across the street and buy lunch, because that's just wasting money. So as it relates to budgeting, pretty simple, but easier said than done. but it's a great path into the new year. Any questions as it relates to budgeting? There's some great apps out there for budgeting. Um, Mint is a really good one. It connects to your bank accounts and it helps you create a budget. Um, what is it? You Need a Budget Now or something like that. It's another app that allows you to track your spending and put it into categories, and it just helps see where your money's going. All right, we've got about 2 more topics here to cover. I want to make sure I'm mindful of everybody's time. Um, Second to last here, building a savings. This is a huge financial goal for my family this year is building up our emergency savings pot, having money for an emergency or a rainy day. I'm not going to sit here and lecture the audience on why it's important to have an emergency savings fund. I think we all know that. But you need to have enough money in order to get through a few months of essential expenses should something happen to your income, should an emergency arise. The biggest thing is once you've crafted that budget and you've been able to find out areas in which you can decrease your spending, start adding some of that excess money into a savings account. Utilize maybe the holiday bonus you got or a tax return that you have coming up, or a cost of living increase at work. Utilize that and put it to work by putting it into a savings account. Automate it as well. Set up automatic transfers between your checking account to your savings account, out of sight, out of mind. You can also rework your direct deposits instead of, I recently just did this. Instead of having 100% of my paycheck go into my checking account, 95% of it goes into my checking account and 5% goes into a savings account. It takes the potential, lack of initiative on my end out of my hand. It does it automatically for me, and I don't even think twice about it. Because I used to be the type of person that would say, oh, I'll transfer it later in the month, and I never would. Now that it's automatic, it's made savings significantly easier. The types of savings accounts you have can make a huge difference in achieving your savings goals as well too. Try starting or switching to a high yield savings account. Right now, with the way interest rates are, some of these savings accounts have really great rates. For example, Ceslock has a certificate account with over 4% rate to help your money, make money, help your money work for you. A lot of people are saving money in just a generic savings account that's getting very little to nothing in return. Ceslock has great rates. Everywhere has great rates right now. So explore other options for savings accounts, because if you're putting that money away, make it work for you. Take advantage of these 4 or 5% rates that we're seeing right now, and it allows you to get a little bit more money for yourself in the long run. Lastly, as it relates to saving, don't feel like you have to wait until you're 100% debt free to start saving. When it comes to saving, time is your biggest asset. Try increasing the amount you're saving by a couple percentage points. Remember, everyone starts somewhere. So make it a conscious effort to prioritize decreasing your debt. But also it goes back to that budgeting. Once you've freed up some more money, allocate a percentage or two to your savings account. Very similar to your 401k or your IRA. Start by raising your savings a percentage point or two, and that amount over time is going to continue to build, and it'll start somewhere. Any questions as it relates to savings here as we head into our last slide? All righty, lastly, I want to discuss a topic that I hear very frequent when I'm having conversations with Ceslock members. Not only do they mention the need for a financial advisor, but they also talk about estate plans. This is something top of mind for myself. I mentioned, my family and I, we have 2 major financial goals we want to accomplish. One is that emergency savings fund. Second is the estate plan. I mentioned, we have a almost 2-year-old now, and we want to make sure that the things that we have, should something happen to either of us, go to the right people. A lot of people hear the term estate planning and assume it's it's something wealthy people need, only wealthy people need. And that's not true. Most everybody can benefit from having an estate plan in place. They do more than just divide assets. They can help name guardians for kids. They can, complete important healthcare documents. They can specify your final arrangements and wishes and many, many more. There's a few different components when you begin to look at an estate plan. So here are a few things to consider when we begin to think about planning for your estate. Number one is a will. A last will or a testament. It's essentially a legal document that describes how you would like your property or other assets to be distributed after your death. You don't want to not have a will created and then something happened to you and you leave all your property and other assets up to the state and for them to make that decision. You should be making that decision now and make sure the right people are receiving the right things. A living trust, it's a form of estate planning that allows you to control your assets while you're still alive, but have it distributed to people or organizations you select when you die. Part of the estate planning process is evaluating your life insurance. Life insurance policy is incredibly important to have, especially if you have other people that may rely on you financially. It's a policy or a contract between a life insurance company and the policy owner, you, sorry. And it guarantees that, if something were to happen to you or someone else, in exchange for the premiums that you've been paying on the policyholder during the lifetime, you'll get a sum of money. Your family or your beneficiaries will get a sum of money. And so life insurance is incredibly, incredibly important. You see it all the time in the news, that, a spouse or someone passes away suddenly and there's no plan in place or no life insurance in place. You would just hate to have your loved ones be in a situation like that. So consider, evaluating your life insurance. Review beneficiaries. Do you know who your beneficiaries are? That's a great question to start with. If you're not sure of the answer, take time to review who your beneficiaries are for retirement accounts, for life insurance policies, for checking accounts, for savings accounts. Make sure you know who they are. It's an important part of the estate planning process, because when I opened up my 401k initially when I was a young kid, my beneficiary was totally different than who my beneficiaries would be now, and I still have that same 401k account. So make sure that you're reviewing your accounts and who is going to, benefit from those funds if something were to happen to you. Lastly, get professional help with stuff like this. There are a lot of affordable options out there for wills and trusts like LegalZoom and things you can do online. But for a lot more complex estates, with properties and other assets, maybe seek out an estate attorney, and that might be the best place to start. So make sure you consider, if you already haven't, taking a look at some of your estate plans here in 2024. As we close out this webinar, I think it's important to remember, this coming year is going to look different for everyone. We can't predict what is going to happen with housing and the finances and all of this other stuff, but the more that we follow some of the things that were shared, like decreasing our debt and budgeting and investing more, we're going to be able to weather whatever 2024 brings us financially. And I think the aspect of worrying less because you've planned and prepared seems incredibly appealing. Even if you focus on just one or two of these, things that we've discussed, it can help relieve stress and get you closer to some of your financial goals. I mentioned at the very beginning, my contact info, we're always here for you. We're always here to chat. We're always here to help. Give us a call, connect with your nearest branch today, but we're here to help answer any questions that you do have. So we've definitely got some time. We've got about 10 minutes here. If there's any questions that you wanted to ask that you've been holding on to, feel free to use the Q&A box and ask those questions. While questions are coming in, I want to just make folks aware of GreenPath Financial Wellness. They are a partner of Ceslox. They can help with some debt management plans and other items. So if you're a little bit worried about your debt and how you're handling it, don't hesitate to reach out to GreenPath Financial Wellness. mention SESLOC and they'll help guide you. They'll do a free debt consultation and help guide you in the right direction with taking care of some of that debt. Any questions here, folks? I see a couple people typing, so I'm going to give it a minute or two as these questions start coming in. All right, so we have a question here about, let's see. Okay, so the question asks about an auto refi, how folks can potentially save money on their monthly auto payment for their loan. That's a great question, and that's something many folks don't consider. They think they're just locked into whatever their auto payment is. If you locked in 2 years ago and you're paying $400 a month, it's that for eternity or until you pay off the car, and that's not true. I will preface that, with the way rates are right now, it probably isn't beneficial for you to refi. However, continue to take a look at interest rates at auto rates or loan rates, at SESLOC. And if there's a drop in rates and it's lower than what you're paying now, yeah, it's a no-brainer to go and potentially refi your vehicle. Very similar to, your housing, your mortgage. If it drops lower than what you're paying now, there could be some value in refining and having a lower monthly payment. So that's a great way to potentially free up some extra cash month to month. But again, it really boils down to what your interest rate is. Question here is, does SESLOC have a list or directory of local legal providers for wills, trusts, etc. that they recommend? So I don't think we have one on our website, but again, send me an email. Let me, here in the chat box, I'll just put my email address again. And I can help share some folks that we've worked with in the past or that have even presented with us on behalf of SESLOC. So my email is in the chat box, so make sure you send me an email. Okay. Any opinion on Mama Bear legal forms, online wills, trusts, etc.? They are recommended by Dave Ramsey. Admittedly, I haven't had any experience with Mama Bear legal forms. As with any of these, online wills, online trusts, I would do as much research as you can to see, if they are legit and what services that, they're offering. Again, I haven't had any personal experience with them. And I would imagine that if Dave Ramsey is mentioning it, that, I would assume it's legit, but, yeah, I haven't had any experience with them. I mean, it seems like it's a legit website and they offer some great resources. So again, no feedback, good or bad, but it seems like it's a legit, website for online wills, trusts and things like that. I would just make sure you do your due diligence that the services that they're providing are what you're looking for. Of course. Another question here about high yield savings accounts. What is a high yield savings account? So a high yield savings account is something that's a little different than your traditional savings account. At SESLOC, you have, just using SESLOC as an example, you have your home free checking and you have your primary share savings account. The interest rate on that savings account is going to be very, very low. So if you have money stored there, you're going to get, a very, very low rate of return on the money that you have stored in that savings account. However, there are high yield savings accounts or money market accounts or certificate accounts that can, instead of getting you 0.01% return interest rate, you get 4% of whatever the money is in your savings account every month potentially. So there are a variety of different savings accounts to explore. And that was the point that I was making about the savings slide is, don't get stuck with the traditional, I'm putting, all my money in a savings account and I'm keeping it there when there's other options for your money to make more. We see stories all the time of people going into a branch and they have, 30 or $40,000 sitting in a savings account getting 0.01% interest. If you move even a fraction of that into a high yield savings account or to a certificate deposit account, you're going to be making so much more money by doing nothing, just leaving that money in there. So, there's, obviously there's other financial institutions that have savings accounts, high yield savings accounts as well too with rates. So just, explore and see what's out there and see what's best for you. Ceslock has a variety of different high yield savings accounts, some that, offer you an opportunity to win more money, like Save to Win. I love that savings account. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. I mean, it's a loaded one in that there's a big difference between a standard savings and a high yield savings. But it goes even deeper than that. But I think at the end of the day, it really involves you just earning more money on your savings. Another question here on a 401k. Who can I speak to about my 401k? Go straight to your HR. Your HR department is going to they're going to be the experts on your 401k. It sounds like, or at least it looks like in the question here, you are making contributions and you just want to see like what your balance is. Yeah. So go straight to your HR department. They're going to help set you up. Like if your 401k is through Fidelity or it's through Nationwide or whatever, whoever it might be, they're going to help get you your login information and they're going to help you take a better look at what your 401k looks like. A lot of times these 401k providers, they do, webinars as well too, and kind of explaining the basics of your 401k. So yeah, I would just reach out to your HR. They're going to help guide you in the right direction on how to access your 401k and your match information and all that stuff. Any other questions here, folks? Seems like that might be done. Questions, last call. All righty, gonna go ahead and end the webinar here. Thank you very much for attending. Keep an eye out for an email from me on the recording of this webinar. And again, you all have my email. Please feel free to reach out. Please feel free to give us a call. Happy to help chat with you on any questions you may have. But again, thank you for joining today's webinar, and I'll see you next month on, I believe it's the 14th, February 14th, understanding credit reports and your credit score. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you joining.